So, since we are coming upon the season of the witch, I figured I would do some of these Huluween reviews because Hulu every year always has, new Hulu originals released around this time, and their little segment is called Huluween. So, I figured the ones that were out coming out as of late, they looked pretty cool. So, I would start with one of those. So, I wanted to start with Hold Your Breath, right, with Sarah Paulson. And honestly, the trailer was a lot better than the actual film was. I mean, when I saw the trailer, I thought this was going to be a pretty cool drama, right? Psychological thriller. I mean, it seemed like pretty cool, dealing with like an entity or a spirit, like, terrorizing this family on their farm. But the kicker is that it takes place in 1930s Oklahoma, and I had no idea that dust storms were so severe like that in those times. I mean, I'd rather deal with a tornado, I guess, than a dust storm of that magnitude. But it deals with this family that lives through that, and in dealing with that situation, they start thinking that this sinister presence is in that dust storm and it's trying to hurt them. But it was an interesting movie. It was definitely sad. It was kind of depressing. The ending was definitely unfortunate. But it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And the trailer, like I said, it just made it seem way cooler than the film was. But so it follows this mom, Margaret, and she has her two daughters, Rose and Ollie, and they live, in this dust storm county in Oklahoma, and their husband travels away to Philadelphia for work, right? And he wants them to come, but their first daughter, Ada, had passed away as a baby because of an illness, and probably, all the dust that they would be inhaling because of that area. And so she doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want to leave, the grave site of her daughter because they buried her daughter on their property. So she's like, no, we'll wait. So he'll go out there and make a bunch of money and then be able to bring it back to them so they can fix up their place in a sense, right? But now this mom, she pretty much has ADD, right? Like she cleans like crazy because the dust gets in the house and from all these, from the dust storms and everything. And she, doesn't want her daughters to get sick or to catch any colds with all this dust that they'd be inhaling, so she's just constantly cleaning. And apparently she takes pills because she sleepwalks and she has these night terrors. It's ridiculous. So she ends up kind of starting to get freaked out because they read this book, right? Apparently she has this book with this character in it called the Gray Man, and it's just this guy, this entity, this spirit of a man who can turn into dust, and just he is in the air, and if you breathe him in, he makes you do bad things. It kind of reminds me of Never Let Go, the Halle Berry movie, where it's just traditional, like if you get possessed, you're screwed, you're gonna do bad things. So, but the fact that it's supposed to be this dust monster, I mean, it seemed very cool. I was like, what? It's gonna be like the Sandman? Like that would be dope if the Sandman ends up trying to kill them, and they're like, you can't get away from sand because it's gonna slip through the cracks, But it turns out that she actually, in reading this story and re-remembering the story, I guess, because it's like, shit, they had the book in the house. Like, it's like she's never read it before. She starts thinking and hallucinating that this gray man is actually in the dust storms that are coming and going, and that he's actually going to try to hurt her family. So she just kind of starts going crazy. And the neighbors, the little town that she's in, she's like miles away from other houses and stuff. It's pretty wild. And they have to walk to these areas. They don't have cars. I mean, I'm surprised, I guess, but they have trains. But they end up going to these other people to visit or to have church or for parties or whatever, little get-togethers. And she ends up hearing that this murder happened and that this traveler had came and murdered one of the and chopped up one of the families. And so in hearing that, she gets even more paranoid, thinking that this spirit really is out there traveling with the dust, with these dust storms and stuff, and then ends up believing that it's actually coming after her. And then so she ends up hearing things, right, and ends up going into her barn and ends up finding this man chilling in there. And so she then starts believing that this guy is the Gray Man. He's just he says he's a friend of her husband's and that he just needed shelter, but it's like, bruh, you come all the way over here and you're just hiding out in this barn. It's like you couldn't just come knock on the door during the daytime. But it turns out that he actually stole the jacket from her husband and actually stole money from him even to get away and I guess he killed someone at their job site, because he actually did know the husband and he worked with her husband, but he didn't kill the husband. He killed some other guy, but stole the husband's jacket. And so I guess the husband sends a letter to them and it gets delayed for whatever reason. I forget why, something again to do with the dust storms. And when she actually gets it and reads it, it actually tells about the man Wallace that stole his jacket and killed someone, and to watch out because he knew where they lived or whatever, or he found another letter with her address on it or something. He was able to find a way to get to her house. So she ends up like kicking him out, and she's terrified and thinks that this guy is actually like a demon or like a spirit, like he breathed in the gray man and now he's doing bad things in a sense. And now he doesn't really do anything to them, thankfully. He almost kidnapped the daughter in a sense, but he like doesn't. But she's got a shotgun, the mom, and so she's like, just get out of my house. So he leaves, and so now she's completely paranoid. She thinks that this guy is the gray man. She thinks that this guy's gonna kill her family, that he's gonna be able to like come through the locks or come through the cracks of the window or whatever, he's gonna be able to come and kill them. So she starts losing her mind. She stops taking her sleeping pills because she wants to stay awake all night to be able to be there if he comes to attack her. And it turns out that she just literally goes insane. Like, she just doesn't sleep, and she begins to like become Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, pretty much. Her Dr. Jekyll is the loving mom that wants to protect her daughters and like, cleans the house every day. But then Hyde is up at night, literally hallucinating, thinking that this guy Wallace is going to break back into the house. But it's interesting because I do like how they make it seem that Wallace maybe wasn't real, but the daughters have seen him. So obviously he is real, but it's like the blurry line of reality for the mom is kind of cool. But I just wish that she didn't just go mad, because it turns out that she just goes crazy and imagines that the gray man exists. But in reality, he doesn't. He was just a man that probably did kill that other family and is just on the loose. But she made him into this supernatural being that was never there, who just so happened to come at the right time while she's like freaking out already. It was ridiculous. It was just like when they reveal that she is just going crazy at night and it wasn't Wallace, it's like, it is kind of funny because you're like, damn it, I thought it was going to be like the Sandman. I thought it was going to be something crazy. And she's literally just losing her mind. And at the end, she like, one of the sheriffs comes to check on the daughters because, he doesn't feel that she may be fit. Other people are gossiping, saying that she's like going mad and everything and that her kids shouldn't be staying with her. So when the sheriff comes to talk to her, she like kills him, right? And then she tells her daughters that like, oh, they're going to execute me or they're going to take me to jail. So we need to commit group suicide. We all need to kill each other, so that way we can be with our youngest Ada, who passed away, and like, because she thinks her husband's dead. She's just convinced that he actually killed her husband when he didn't. But it's like she's like, no, you actually did kill him, blah blah blah. But she wants to kill her daughters, and her daughters are like, no, like, mom, you're going crazy. Like, they're literally like trying to tell her she's going mad and that she needs to calm down and like take her medicine and all this stuff. And the one daughter, Rose, ends up being able to trick her into going outside to find her other daughter, the Ollie, because she's actually like mute. So that's actually like, I think she's deaf and mute. Yeah, she's mute and deaf. And so she's like, they do sign language and stuff with her. But she thinks that she like ran away because she was scared. So when she goes out into the dust storm, the daughter, she has this rope tethered to the house, very much so, like never let go. But the daughter like cuts the rope and lets her like pretty much die in the dust storm. Because, it's so severe. Like, it just gets in your lungs, it gets in your ears, your eyes, and you just start choking and then you will die. But throughout, other people died throughout the movie in the dust storm. And she thinks like, oh, it's the gray man. The gray man did it. And it's like, no, they were just like not thinking, and they just didn't prepare for like the possibility of like dying in this dust storm. They thought they could travel through it or, walk through it because they needed supplies or something, like it was just negligence, but not an evil spirit. So it was, like I said, it was a good movie, but it's just not, it wasn't that good. The trailer was way better. It's unfortunate, but it was, a good psychological drama thriller, I guess you would say. I wouldn't consider it a scary film. It wouldn't be a Halloween film. If anything, it would just fit the season of fall, with the dust and the dirt and the death. But it wouldn't be like a scary movie, like by any means. I wouldn't think. And if anything, if it did have some type of entity, I think it would just have been so much cooler, if like sand was coming out of their mouth or their ears or whatever. Like, it's like there is like a supernatural event where Wallace ends up saying he's like a preacher and he heals her daughter's like nosebleeds, but it's like that was it, and it's not really elaborated on anymore, other than she's just hallucinating, thinking he's like an actual spirit, which is like crazy because, again, the daughter was healed by him, so he was physically there. She didn't imagine him, but he does have these weird supernatural powers that never explained. So, I mean, she's in her full right to freak out and to go mad. But again, it's just, I wish it was like a spirit versus a mom just like literally going insane. I don't know. But I mean, it was an interesting watch. I'm surprised it was like one of the highest streaming films. I mean, I love the setting, and period piece horror films are always awesome, and just the aesthetic of the movie was very cool, and all the dust and the scenes with like dust in the air and her being like, oh, there's the gray man in the air, like because as it goes on, you're like, there's nothing really gonna be there. Like she's just literally seeing dust particles and freaking out, so yeah, it was interesting. It's definitely an interesting film. Nothing to write home about. But also, it was really just dust in the wind. That's all. That's all this film was, and that's all the main plot was. Just dust in the wind. All it was dust in the wind. And she freaked the fuck out. But anyway, this has been Ghost in the Craig, and I will catch you guys. I'll catch you guys later. Riders on the storm.